So I keep seeing a lot of videos about we're in the find out phase, post-election, and people are gonna find out, or basically conservatives that voted for Trump are, gonna be regretting their decision. But here's why I think for a lot of people that voted for him, that's not necessarily the case. I think a lot of people that voted for him knew things were gonna get worse, but they're counting on the fact that things are going to get even worse for other groups. And here's my scenario example and why I think that this is accurate.
Yikes.
So say there is a happiness index in the United States and everyone has a maximum score of 100, like that, 100's the most points you can rate your quality of life and happiness. And say there is a 50-something-year-old white man who, isn't really happy with his job. He thinks, he should be higher up in the company. He thinks he should be making more money. He's not really happy with the house he lives in. So he would rate his happiness index at 55 points out of 100. And say he has a coworker, a woman who's an immigrant, person of color, and say she has a great job, she's making more money than him, she lives in a better neighborhood than him, what he perceives has a better house than him, and say she would rate her happiness score at 80 out of 100. And so he knows that if he votes for Donald Trump, his happiness index will be dropped down to 40. So he'll lose 15 points and he'll be 40 out of 100 happy. But he also knows that if Trump wins and enacts everything he says he's going to enact and do everything he says he's going to do, that his coworker, who's doing better than him, her happiness index will drop down to 15 because she will be worried about her family members being deported. She'll maybe be worried about access to birth control or women's health. Maybe she'll be worried about her daughters. Maybe, there's just all these other things she'll be worried about because she's part of marginalized groups. The man doesn't care that his happiness drops 15 points because hers drops below his. He's now 25 points ahead of her.
See, it's so crazy because, dude, that is so disturbing. Think about that. Think about how outright toxic. I mean, this is obviously absolutely fucking true. We know this. This is the same shit that I just said. To hear her just say that, straight out. I mean, it's so accurate, but think about how toxic that is. That's absolutely the entire Maga thing. That guy, he's unhappy with his life, and he sees an immigrant that's happier with their life, and he wants to just make sure that they're less happy than him. And that's what he voted for. But think about how bad for humanity it is for us to make those kinds of decisions. Instead of him making a decision that could maybe help him have an 80 happiness index, he figures I'm going to be even less happy, but I'm just going to guarantee that the people around me are miserable. Dude, isn't that crazy? And I mean, we know that that's the operative thing. That's what Trump's entire campaign was. He promised he would harm these groups.
His is at 40, hers is at 15. Whereas pre-Trump, it was 80 and 55, and he was below her in the happiness index. I think that a lot of these people, when we're saying oh, you're going to get what you voted for, yes, they are. And that's what they want, because due to whatever's going on in their life, whatever aspects of their life that they were unhappy with, where they think maybe they were owed something by society, and they see people that are part of marginalized groups.
I think what she says there, though, she slipped something there that maybe that they were owed by society. And this is part of that Trumpism stuff, guys. And it's about white, because when they are born white in America, because of the history of America with enslavement and segregation, American society, white people have the best job, the best life, the most power, the happiest happiness index or whatever. And diversity and equity come around, and it tries to even that out and make that a more open equation. So you're not automatically getting the best of everything just because you're born white. But she kind of outs their movement, where white people now in a diverse America, in an America where gay people and trans people and non-binary and, people of every color and religion and shit all have the right and access to succeed, it's like white people feel like they're not getting what they believe they're owed, which is that nobody that's not white has a better feeling life than them. If they're unhappy and people of color are happy, they're like, we've lost something. When it's like, no, goddammit, maybe you need to work to be happy. Maybe you need to take up some healing shit, some yoga, some meditation. Maybe you need to go back to school at 50 or take a chance, leave that job, start that business you've wanted to start, take a fucking risk. Like maybe don't rate your satisfaction on other people's feelings of happiness.
Or women or people that have worked hard to get where they're at, but that they're doing better than them. They want them to suffer. And so while the FAFO videos, they're like, we're in the find out phase videos, they make me laugh. At the same time, I don't think that a lot of these voters are in the find out phase and they're ever going to be there because they know what they voted for. They know that tariffs will likely increase their cost of living, but they know that there will be people that his policies will make much more worse off. And as long as they're above those people and they're not at the bottom, then they got what they wanted. So
Dude, that's brutal, bro. It's just brutal. But now here's the deal, though, that is unfortunate about this, because I do believe that people are going to reach the find out. And here's why. Because what ends up happening is people that come from marginalized groups, whether it be women or people of color or the LGBTQ or whatever, they've already been ingrained with having a harder life. It was already harder for them to achieve that happiness index. So what's really happening is when you have somebody like Trump that comes in and decides to do these things that are going to harm the groups, those groups that are harmed are not simply going to sit around feeling bad about the harm that Trump caused to them. And they're not going to try and just take it out on the shitty white people. They're going to work even harder to get ahead and to get that happiness index up high. And so that's what's going to happen, is ultimately these voters that voted for Trump to harm the other groups are going to see that the harmed groups are just going to work harder. They're going to build stronger communities. They're going to fight even harder for their rights. It's like now there's like a transgender woman in Congress. And what's going to happen? Trump's going to pass some anti-trans shit, and then more trans women are going to get to Congress. And they're going to be like, F you. The more you beat us down, the harder we're going to work to be happy. Because normal human beings know that if we wrestle satisfaction out of life, it's within our power. Maybe you never get rich. Maybe you never get the job you want. Maybe you don't get famous. Maybe you don't get the whatever. But you can still be satisfied with your life if you heal and if you learn to value some important non-monetary shit. But I believe that they're going to be even more pissed off when they see Trump harm those very people, and those people keep fighting and have the good life anyway. And this is more about Trumpism. We saw this with Missouri. Missouri voted for abortion rights. They voted for those democratic principles, and then they voted for all Republican legislators. And why? Because white conservative women want abortion rights for them. They want paid family leave for them. Or they want everything to be customized for the white experience in America. They do believe in the left beliefs, but they don't want black people to have them. And that's why they vote Trump, because Trump stands up there and says, I'm going to deport the Mexicans. Black people are not being oppressed. Everybody, I'm going to harm all the people. I'm going to harm the transgender people. I'm only defending your white rural rights. And that's the problem. She doesn't care if the price of eggs go up. She doesn't care if her housing costs go up. She doesn't care if we have a recession. As long as she knows the government is not helping black and brown people. Period. As long as she knows that they're suffering more. they're all in. That's what they elected. They didn't elect Trump to get better prices. They elected Trump to make sure that black and brown people and transgender people had worse lives than they did. And they know that Trump will deliver that. He will make sure that if the prices rise, he will make damn sure that the black and brown people and the trans people suffer more. And that's what they voted for. That's it. And so it's like, what is good or not good can be very subjective in these things, dude. And a lot of this doesn't really get necessarily discussed because basically in America, and we're seeing this with Trump, we're seeing it with Elon Musk. The real truth of America is this. If you are white enough and you are wealthy enough, the laws or the rules simply don't apply to you, period. So everybody tries to get wealthy. And if you're not white, you got to get even wealthier. But you either try to get white or be on the side of whiteness, or you try to get wealthy. And then once you do that, you get to be immune to the rules. You don't have to follow the rules. And even if it's as simple as, you know, once you're wealthy enough, you can get a speeding ticket or you can park in front of a fire hydrant and it doesn't fucking matter. $55, pshaw. You pay the fine. It's nothing. It's a drop. If you're wealthy, you can park right in front of the fire hydrant. Doesn't matter if you get a ticket. Doesn't matter if you never pay your tickets. Eventually, your car gets impounded. You call your lawyer. He goes and sorts it all out, pays a fine, whatever. You're immune. That's what America is. If you're white enough and you're wealthy enough, you get to live by your own set of rules and you're immune to the consequences. And it fucking sucks, bro. It sucks. Dude, it really does, dude.